super excited to be here. First of all, congratulations to Mark, third year of Hyvio. He's took it from 1 year to 2 year to 3 year, gets better every year, so awesome job. First of all, the previous speakers, by the way, did a great job of teeing this up because they created a whole mindset of thinking and change about disruption and evolution and legacy thinking and how radio needs to change. What Sarah and I want to do is kind of drill down a little bit and talk about some specifics, how radio can really adopt the opportunity, which is mobile. And just to give you a little background, I've been in radio 25 years, the last 10 on the digital side. Sarah's been in the broadcast buying and media side for the last 20 years, so we have a pretty good perspective of monetization of content. So what we're going to start with, say, is the mobile opportunity and the mobile movement. Radio sits at a little bit of a crossroads right now. They can be the Yellow Pages or Google. They can be Kodak or Instagram. They can be Blockbuster or Netflix, as we talked about. The good news is we sit with 250 million users and listeners that are predominantly listening. And we've got 24/7 fresh content. We've got a huge local sales staff. We've got millions of local advertisers that we have relationships with. And we have a lot of revenue. The challenge is how do you embrace the mobile opportunity? How do you create interactivity and attribution? Radio doesn't have a listening problem in whatever form it is, stream, web, mobile, broadcast. It has an attribution and an interactivity problem. And that's what we're here to solve and help you guys see a little bit of.
So first we want to take you a little bit through some mobile statistics, which shouldn't be a surprise to most of you. Last reported US smartphone penetration has broke 75%. 75% of the US has a smartphone. We're probably going to get that number a lot higher, but that's pretty close to the top in terms of penetration. Further than that, when we look at mobile versus desktop mobile, whether it's an app or other searching the web on your mobile device, that's exceeding desktop today. This should be no surprise because we're all on the move, we're all doing things. This is the closest thing in our hand, the thing we don't leave the house with every morning. And this is why it's no surprise that mobile has leaped over desktop in terms of interaction. And there's a shift in ad spend, as we're seeing. Mobile is projected to increase by 12% by 2018. And we're also seeing what eMarketer reports is radio is on the decline. Why? Because mobile, digital as a space, has attribution. It has measurement. Radio has that too, and we're going to explain how we get there.
This is the disruptor. It's disrupting all forms of traditional media. Because the reality is, and I think there was a quote from one of the speakers before, that someone's checking this device 6 times every 6 minutes, literally, 120 times a day. The reality is that radio has the opportunity to get those 250 million users to start doing these things through the power of the loudspeaker, through the following of the content, through the local personalities, to say, hey, don't just listen, but engage with everything you hear, the music, the promotions, the contests, the ads, the talk, the interviews, the sports, the news, right? It's rich content, but we're only listening. We need to be able to do all of these things that other mediums and other retailers and other entities are doing, is to get them to engage while they're listening. And that provides the interactivity and the attribution. This slide here is just a little snapshot of our platform, and we're going to talk about in general just interactivity for radio. But the reality is 85% of listenership is still over the broadcast, not necessarily coming through a digital channel. Obviously, on the IP side, with the Pandoras and Spotify's, 90% or all of their listenership is coming from there. But what we want to do is make radio actionable through the mobile device, regardless of how you listen. That might be through the stream on mobile, or through a web browser on your mobile device, or even the web player. But at the end of the day, you want to create interactivity through a feed. And as you guys know, the world has become feed mentality with Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, is that you're checking that feed constantly to get an update on something. Well, why doesn't radio have that capability? That's what we want to share.
So Billy touched a little bit on attribution and performance, and that's what this platform delivers. So radio today, everybody knows that radio delivers. When you turn a radio campaign on, Google reports, Nielsen reports, you're going to see a boost in sales, you're going to see a boost in web traffic. That's known. But it's not known what the direct attribution is. What station were you listening to? What time were you listening? What show was playing at that time? Google, Bing, keyword search, they get the benefit of knowing, and that's why the dollars are flowing to digital, because you know directly, oh, I searched for this keyword, I went to the cart, I put it in the cart, I made the purchase. Now with an interactive radio platform, whether it's a broadcast spot or a streaming spot, you can open the station's mobile app, interact with that spot the moment you hear the song, or even go back historically, or the ad, or go back historically and interact with that ad, and do what the advertiser's asking you to do, whether it's go to their website, provide your email address, whatever it is. Now there's direct attribution back to the station to say, oh, it was WXYZ on this station, this time, where this user chose to take that offer.
The reality is this is occurring. We just haven't gotten credit for it. I ran sales for the Westwood One Radio Network and Metro Networks for years. Had big national advertisers spend tons of money. When search came along, they stopped spending. But they would come back and they'd say, you know what, my search is a lot better when radio is working. There wasn't direct attribution, but now today there can be. And radio can capture that for itself and say, hey, that radio spend resulted in real leads, real email addresses, real phone calls. Directly, and that's the key. So engaging your audience. This is part content, part advertising here. But today, most station apps are listening-only apps. They really don't go beyond delivering the audio, which is obviously important because that's all the power of the emotion that goes into your mind. But how do you act on that emotion? How do you engage with the content that you want? How do you respond to the ads that's interesting to you because your roof is leaking and you heard the ad for the roofer, or that contest or that promotion or that artist that you like? It's got to be immediately accessible through your mobile device, and it's got to be a rich, engaging experience. And that's what we're creating with this content feed. So this is just a little snapshot of what it looks like, and this can be customized by station, of course. But the reality is 24/7, every time something new happens on a terrestrial radio station or on the stream or on the FM chip, whether you're on web player or you're on mobile device, it's updating just like your Facebook page. Think about if you went to your Facebook page and the same thing was there every 5 hours. You wouldn't be going to your Facebook page. Why do you go to your Facebook page, your Twitter, your LinkedIn? Because your friends are posting new stuff. Well, your friends on radio have the ability to do that. All they have to do is take that spoken word content that Glenn Beck is doing, or The Morning Show, or Bob and Tom, and feed it into a mobile device or into a web player and allow it to be rich and engaging and allow them to really take action in the things that they like organically. And there's lots of examples here which we'll share with you guys. This is the advertiser value. So at the end of the day, every time a broadcast spot runs, whether it's streamed or over the terrestrial air, it can create a viewable impression which delivers an open, which ultimately creates an action that's trackable and measurable and convertible. And this is the game changer that I see when I go on calls with our team and our affiliates. We've got over 450 stations using this platform. Is that when you sit with an advertiser who's kind of got their arms crossed and say, I know everything there is about radio. You're not going to tell me anything new. And you show them this and say, we can deliver 150, 200, 300 leads to you directly attributable to the broadcast. They lean in and go, wow, this is different. In Tier 2 Automotive and other advertisers who pulled back and went to Google Search or Kelley Blue Book or Automotive Search, they come back in and they spend not just digital money, but they're spending on the core asset, which is the broadcast. And ultimately, that's critical to radio's growth to a $20 billion industry again. This is just some snapshots of what these rich advertiser executions look like. These just aren't 300 by 250 banners that, or display that gets pushed into the app. Ultimately, there's 20 or 30 different types of engagement features that allow you to capture that listener's interest. Whether it's send me an email, whether it's direct dial call, whether it's download a mobile coupon, whether it's take a survey, even tap a button and give me a 30-second message of why you've not been able to finance your home, and we pass it directly to that advertiser. And then advertiser then can follow up because we have registration information and we have contact information that we pass back to them. So these are just some of the rich examples of the ad interface.
Now, Billy talked a little bit about our past and how we both come from traditional and digital media. I've worked at a few digital agencies, and to me, I really don't believe anything until I see the data. And for me, when you look at this data, this is what's exciting to me. And the digital ad agency space, if you see a campaign delivering to the right of the decimal, and there's a number to the right, and it's not 0, they're throwing you a parade. I mean, the open rates of campaigns today are very small when it comes to the digital space, whether you're talking about display, search, email, it's very small. If you see something to the left of the decimal, that is a really big deal. And that's what we see. Why? Because people are engaged with this 30 or 60-second piece of audio that reminds them of something or engages them. Oh, I really wanted to buy tickets to that concert. Oh, I really wanted to go to that haunted house that's coming up. I want to get tickets. They're reminded, do this. Now when you give them the capability to do it at the moment that they've heard it, or even to go back and do it, they're doing it. They want to engage. And that's what's important. When you give them the conduit to do that in the thing that they're carrying around 24/7, they do it.
So just a little bit about increasing the value. So over the last 10 years, the bar has been raised. Accountability, lead tracking, real data, behavioral data is all part of the digital and traditional media buying parameters now. Radio, unfortunately, has not been able to deliver those same things. But with a census-based approach of getting all listeners to be able to engage through the device that they have versus samples or estimates, which is good data still from Nielsen, but a census approach of, hey, everybody can respond now to everything that you hear on every station in a market. When you have that, you now can go back and be just as attributable, just as data and analytics driven as the other competitive media that are out there. And that puts radio on a plane that I believe can be above, digital media, because we've got the loudspeaker, we've got the brands, we've got the exclusive content. Now we're just saying, hey, let me show you what we've actually can do versus you estimating what we can do or anecdotally saying, hey, we thought dealership traffic went up this weekend. Boom, here's 1,000 leads for a small business in a marketplace. That makes the difference. And the result of this is an increase in the value of the core asset, not just a 5% increase because we sold some streaming or some digital display, but that $10,000 order for broadcast is now worth $11,500 or $12,000. And that advertiser who stopped advertising 2 years ago and moved to digital comes back and spends $25,000. A client of ours who's in the room is Alpha Media. They use this platform, one of our early adopters. You go to see a local dealer in Dayton. Jeff Weiler Chevrolet stopped using radio 2.5 years ago. We presented the idea. He leaned in and said, wow, I want to come back on the air. And they're spending money again. That's a key point. And then just from the benefits. At the end of the day, through interactive technology, whether you're using ours or others, you want to make radio interactive. You want it to be accountable. We want to increase engagement and response. And ultimately, we be able to test and optimize campaigns, because radio doesn't optimize in real time. They optimize over a course of a month. We can optimize literally in about 48 hours.
That optimization data is key for advertisers because now they can test creative in real time. They can test offers in real time. They can play with things. They can test to see which stations in the market ultimately drive the greatest usage. It may not be the top-rated station, or it may be the top-rated station. The point is that now they have the data to prove that, oh, radio is delivering on its value. I'm getting leads. I'm getting interactions to my website. And this is where the dollar should be. Why? Because it's a high-reach media vehicle. You can't get those impressions through digital at such a quick pace that you can with radio. And there's a lot of data we have on the back end. So, I mean, for me, again, I'm a data junkie. So looking at the data on the back end to see what's there, it's demographics, it's psychographics, it's what offers work. And then you look at that at the aggregated level. Now you can talk about auto, which I believe is big. Auto is big in the radio space. Now they can say, regionally, okay, these are what offers work. Or, this is the creative that worked. This is what really drove things. All of that data can now influence not just existing campaigns, but future campaigns as well. So now the advertiser and the station start to get smarter about the way that they plan and buy media.
And from this, there's a big data play for radio, right? You've got Omniture and all these other companies that are collecting tons of data. Well, radio's got the 250 million listeners. Imagine if we could capture data from all of them on a census basis, aggregate it by category, by user behavior, by market, by format, by age. We have a data play that is unbelievable. And that's kind of where the thinking is for radio. They have to go. So we're going to share 4 case studies with you. These are local case studies of real advertisers who are using radio either at an increased level through interactivity or coming back to radio. But this particular one is in Portland. This is the Portland Zoo, and they run a program called the Holiday Zoo Lights. And the reality is they run an over-the-air campaign. Matching that was 300,000+ mobile impressions. We had an open rate of over 2%, which compared to digital open rates is astounding. And from that 2%, 34% engagement rate, and 2,200 people engaged and said, I want to buy tickets, or I want to, give you my email so that the zoo can send me an actual, offer to buy those tickets. This is elective, organic engagement, not a forced banner ad or a spammed video or something that people just want to get through to get to the content. They said, hey, I heard it. I'm interested, want to take the kids to the zoo. They go into the app, boom, they open it up, they engage.
The one point I want to make about the numbers and the data is that advertisers want quality. Quantity is good too. You want quality and quantity. But ultimately, they want quality. And numbers, big numbers, large numbers are great. But sometimes the advertiser doesn't necessarily need large numbers. Take, for example, a mortgage company. They just want a few qualified leads within a month to say, oh, this campaign worked, this campaign broke even, or this campaign is producing. That's all they need. It doesn't necessarily have to be huge numbers. That doesn't hurt. But ultimately, the advertiser is looking for quality.
This is another local advertiser in Portland, Chevy dealership. Little skeptical on radio, spending a great deal with them, with our clients there now. At the end of the day, delivering, again, a very strong open rate and engagement rate. And again, this doesn't necessarily mean that they were streaming through the mobile app. They may have heard it ambiently over the air. They were too busy driving the car and couldn't respond, but when they got to work, they can open up and search and find that just like they would go to Google. The reality is that we delivered a tremendous amount of video views and leads to this dealership, and they were like, wow, radio really does move the needle, and ultimately my spend is creating engagement and leads for my brand.
Home improvement is another category that often leverages the platform. And you can see here, this builder, they ran an 8-week campaign, the 5 stations, multiple ads, giveaways, and they got over 75 qualified leads for this campaign. That's huge for them, because now they can go out, add them to their email list, say, okay, dive deeper into what kind of services they want, and then ultimately gain referrals for that. So they had a great campaign in that. Now radio has proven its value. And even more than that, now I have these leads from my company. Here's another example of the QSR. And what's interesting about this is, okay, it's pizza place. You often hear ads for pizza on your way home. It makes sense. I want to go get that offer. But here the advertiser was testing offers. What a great way to leverage radio. Test offers, see what works, and then optimize. Say, okay, for the next campaign, here's what we're going to do, because this is what's working. These open rates, these engagement rates, people want to do it, and when you give them the mechanism to do it, they will do it.
So just a couple more examples here. Local client in Indianapolis, B Window, again, wasn't a fan of radio, came in, spent $28,000 in the broadcast because of digital capabilities. Valentine Auto in a market of ours, Louisville, I believe. Same thing, new money being spent in the category. Tier 2 Automotive is really the biggest challenge for radio right now, because they're being pushed by the guys who supply the money, which is the top level, to go digital. So just some of these examples, and there's hundreds of them, prove that attribution and interactivity, regardless of how you listen, drives results. And then just some data points. What we see happening is that about 55% of the revenue that we're helping stations create is coming from new broadcasters, or I should say new advertisers for the broadcasters. It's not just digital money, but it's broadcast money that people were skeptical or didn't believe in radio. They come back and boom, we're making substantial impacts in these markets for our individual clients. And what we're seeing is an annualized, local kind of lift of, 4 to 8% for marketplaces, and we're seeing a pretty high user per revenue. So what it means is that if you provide that interactivity to your broadcast campaigns, to the content, you see a big lift. So ultimately, what does this mean? What it ultimately means is that any form that you choose to listen, be it the broadcast, be it through a mobile streaming device or the FM chip, a broadcast player, on the desktop, a mobile web player, if you have technology that can provide attribution and interactivity, it becomes more valuable, more engaging, and that listener can go and actually say, yes, I am truly interested and get credit for that. That's what the goal for radio, I think, needs to be, is to leverage those listeners and those users. And what we're seeing across the board is the total audience solution, as we call it, which is, hey, my audience now in total has interactivity and attribution, not just the digital portion that might be 10 to 15%, but my broadcast, because I can go to the app and find that in the feed, we now get a greater CPM or a greater cost per point in whole doing that versus selling individual segments of just interactivity on the stream or just interactivity on mobile. And that's the real key for radio to play in this more competitive digital attributive world. So lastly is just we want to leave you guys with some keys to an interactive strategy, whether you're looking at our platform or others out there. Obviously there's things like Shazam and SoundHound and others that do similar things. The reality is that you want to have a very rich interactive experience. You want all of the content, programming content, sports content, news content, and obviously the ads to have an interactive component to it. The feed experience we think is critical because they want to be able to go there and find it in real time and allow them to browse radio when they are ready. Going back historically and searching for something, whether that's through an audio trigger of using Siri and saying, I want to order a pizza, and it can go and search the broadcast automation system and find that ad from 48 hours ago, or whether it's instantly, on an instant basis, they heard it, and because they were streaming, they engage with it. It's allowing them to browse that. And really creating deep engagement in real-time listener response, which ultimately delivers proven results. These are the, we feel, are the 6 or 7 keys for radio to be able to continue to drive its revenue, engage its listeners, and prove value to the advertiser community.